Hello and welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our full review of the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. So the Velocity Nitro is a shoe line that we've all been really big fans of since it launched back in 2021. It's just a very simple, effective daily trainer that worked for all of us and worked for a wide range of runners in general and came in at a very good price, especially here in the UK. That good price is maintained in the UK. It's £110, the Velocity Nitro 4. It's now $140 in the US though, which does put it much more in line with most daily trainers of this type in America. Things like the Asics Nova Blast 5, the Nike Pegasus, all around that price. But here in the UK, the Velocity Nitro 4 undercuts all of those shoes. Still got the same stack and drop on this shoe compared to the Velocity Nitro 3. It's a 10mm drop from heel to toe with a stack height of 36mm at the heel, 26mm at the forefoot. The new shoe is a fair bit lighter though. It's just 247 grams or 8.7 ounces in my UK size 9, which is a US 10. It's a fairly big drop in weight on the Velocity Nitro 3, and that drop in weight is down to the updated midsole, which is now just made from Puma's NitroFoam, instead of it being a dual density midsole with a layer of ProFoam Light EVA foam on the bottom. And that's the very big change you have here with the fourth version of the shoe. I'd say up until now it's been pretty marginal, the changes made to the Velocity Nitro from the 1 to the 2 to the 3, but the Velocity Nitro 4 is a pretty different beast thanks to the fact the midsole is now all NitroFoam, which is a nitro infused foam. Not exactly sure what the material is. Puma has changed what NitroFoam means on various different shoes over the years, and this feels a fair bit softer and springier than the foam that was used on the Velocity Nitro 3. So whatever it is, it's a really good foam. It's lightweight, it's bouncy, it's fun. We'll talk a lot more about it in the run test. Then you've got an engineered mesh upper on the shoe with a fair bit of padding around the heel, not much on the tongue. You've got some power tape used to reinforce the shoe a little bit. It's reasonably thin and breathable in the forefoot, but yeah, mostly an upper that still provides a lot of comfort as you'd expect from a daily trainer. And then you've got a Puma grip outsole, which is a material which has been, a star feature on Puma shoes in general since they came back into the road running scene as a very grippy and durable material. We've got a pretty generous layer of it on the Velocity Nitro 4 covering the forefoot and heel, and like I say, it's a pretty thick layer given how lightweight the shoe is.
The fit for me in the Velocity Nitro 4, I'm a size 8 in the UK, this is a size 8. It's quite a roomy shoe before my big toe. There's definitely a bit more space than I'd normally expect from a size 8 shoe. I wouldn't say there's too much. I think for most people it'll be absolutely fine, but if you do like a small snug fit, you might want to go down half a size, but I probably wouldn't advise that. But there's definitely more space than I would normally get in a shoe of this size. The forefoot, there's plenty of space for wiggle room in the toes. The only thing I would say is that the midfoot is a little bit restrictive. So I've got fairly average width feet. I'm fine with this, but I'm pretty much at the limit of a comfortable fit in the midfoot. Loads of padding around it, very, very comfortable shoe all round. I think this shoe, in comparison to the previous versions, does have a little bit more of a leaner feel to it, which is designed alongside some of the modifications made to the midsole to make it a little bit more maybe performance focused, not massively, but I think it feels a little bit more like a shoe designed for versatility now in the fit. But I would stay to my UK size 8 in this shoe. But if you've got wider feet, just take that into consideration.
Comes to fit of the Velocity Nitro 4, it's been all good for me in my normal running shoe size. It's still got quite a narrow torpedo-like fit. I'd say it is a bit wider around the forefoot than the Velocity Nitro 3, but it's still a shoe that I think is more narrow than average compared to the market at large, which suits me very well as I have a narrow foot. You've got, I think, a fairly long toe box. Like, I've been fine in my normal size. Maybe I could go half a size down, but I think I like the amount of room I have there with this shoe. You've got this pretty accommodating heel design here, which is padded, and you can certainly feel it on the run, but it's not too oppressive. I haven't any problems with heel rub or it bothering my Achilles at all. Internal heel counter at the back there to add some support as well. So yeah, all round the fit was good for me in my normal size, which is what I always suggest you stick to with the Velocity Nitro 4.
So in terms of fit, all good on the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. No issues to report in my testing time. I've got it in a UK size 8. That is my typical running shoe size, the same size I've had the previous versions of the Velocity Nitro. And I think like those shoes, this very much does fit true to size. I think it's snug, it's comfortable, I think it's kind of supportive in the key areas, which is kind of like driven by that power tape in the kind of mostly mesh upper. The space up front of the toe box has been absolutely fine. I have noticed putting on the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 that it has kind of opened up a little bit more in that forefoot area. So if you're looking for something slightly more roomy, I do think you get that in the forefoot of the shoe, and I think that does extend to the midfoot of the shoe as well. Elsewhere, lace is pretty similar to the Velocity Nitro 3, nothing too fussy there. Gusseted tongue, that has stayed put during all of my runs, and then you've got a kind of well padded kind of heel collar and around the Achilles, which doesn't feel overly generous with that padding, giving you just enough comfort there without feeling like it's adding too much bulk at the back of the shoe, and no issues of irritation or rub at the heel or Achilles area in the shoe.
So obviously a shoe I was very excited to have land on my doorstep, as a very big fan of the Velocity Nitro over the years, and I've done about 55k in the Velocity Nitro 4 ahead of its embargo today, using it for a mix of training runs, including a couple of very easy runs and a couple of easy to steady progression runs, so working down from around 430, 440 a k down towards kind of 335, 340 a k. It's certainly a different shoe to the Velocity Nitro 3 thanks to that redesigned midsole. It feels a lot lighter on the foot immediately, it feels softer, a little bit springier. You've got some features that do remain the same across the previous model and this one in terms of the stack height and drop, and the geometry hasn't really changed much on the shoe, but the different foam in the midsole does make it feel a lighter, poppier, more fun all-round shoe to run in. You've still got plenty of cush at the back of the shoe, and then as you roll onto your forefoot, you do get that springier, more responsive ride from the new midsole on the shoe. And it feels softer and more comfortable at the back as well if you're a heel striker like myself. It just gives you, a lot of squish there. And even though this isn't a super high stack shoe like most shoes on the market now, which go above 40 millimeters, even in this area, things like the Nova Blast and the Clifton are all pushing beyond there. Puma seems relatively low stack, but you've definitely got enough cushioning and comfort here for long runs, I'd say, and not any signs of this foam bottoming out. It really does give a lot back, and it feels responsive, and that's been the case throughout runs. I think I've gone up to about 18k in this shoe so far and had no concerns about it. It started to feel a bit flat or any kind of discomfort under the forefoot, which is something I get sometimes with shoes that have a higher drop of about 10 millimeters, where I kind of snap through as a heel striker, especially if I'm running a bit faster. I sometimes start to feel it on the ball of my foot over time, but no, hasn't been a problem at all. Even on like those progression runs where I've done half an hour at a pretty decent pace at the end of them, have had no problems with comfort with the Velocity Nitro 4. And as someone who's not always keen to go for a mega stack shoe, even for easy runs, I think you've definitely got enough comfort here in the lower stack design. That's a fair bit nimbler than lots of shoes on the market because it does have quite a narrow design as well, and that does come at the cost a little bit in terms of stability. I think if you are someone who does overpronate, in general likes a stability shoe or at least a stable neutral shoe, something like the Clifton 10, even the New Balance Rebel V5 with its very wide base, I think the Velocity Nitro 4 might not suit you that well because it is a bit narrow and you will roll inwards around that midfoot in particular with this fairly soft midsole foam. So I think the ride is more fun at easy paces in the Velocity Nitro 4 than it was with the 3, but the performance is probably pretty similar. I do think you are getting a faster shoe though with the Velocity Nitro 4. Like when I've gone to those faster paces, it does pick up really well. It has quite a natural feel even going at those faster paces. And I think this is now a really versatile all-round option. The drop in weight is certainly helpful when it comes to the faster end of things, and then you've got this more responsive, more fun midsole foam that does give you a bit more bounce as well. So I think the changes have pushed the Velocity Nitro 4 into a really good space in terms of it being a very impressive all-rounder which can handle those faster paces well whilst being comfortable for easy runs as well. So when it comes to the ride, it does feel a bit different to lots of shoes these days. It's not a very rockered shoe. You haven't got much of a forefoot rocker at all on the shoe, I would say, and it's got that higher drop than is becoming standard. I think 6 to 8, I think 8 millimeters is probably the sweet spot where lots of brands are going with their shoes at the moment. Lots of them are using rockers as well. You've got a more traditional flattish ride here with the Velocity Nitro 4 in the way it snaps through, but it doesn't feel crazy high drop to me, I think, because the foam is quite soft. It does still smooth out the ride a little bit, and while it's not a shoe that's going to do the work for you, I guess in some ways, like if you have like a very rocket shoe, sometimes it really pushes you on a bit. Something like the Adizero Evo SL really has a very fast feeling ride off the forefoot. I don't think the Velocity Nitro has that really. I think, but the ride is still quite fast because it's just a simple, well-made shoe that's not going to hold you back. It's a good platform to run fast with because it's pretty lightweight. The foam has a bit of response, but it is also a shoe that's very easy to gear back in and run slowly in because it does have that quite traditional setup. So I don't think it's necessarily even with the change in the foam, a ride that really wows you with how it feels. Like the foam feels good, but it's not like a shoe that really feels like it's throwing you forward or anything like that. It just feels like a really pleasant, neutral base to work with in a very lightweight but comfortable design with a bit of bounce that does make it nice and versatile. Certainly, I think it's going against the grain of lots of modern trainers out there, which are getting very wide, very rockered. And while I do like a rockered shoe, and I sometimes enjoy a wide shoe, I think it's really nice sometimes to have a shoe like this, which is a bit simple, a bit narrow, just comfortable, good grip as well, obviously from the Puma Grip outsole, and it's just worked really well for me on every run I've done in it so far.
So into that running time, and it's been solid overall in the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. There are definitely a couple of kind of notable changes I think you do notice on the run in this shoe. I think the first one being that it is a lighter shoe than the Velocity Nitro 3. Now that shoe wasn't a heavy shoe, but it's always nice to see that a newer version of a shoe can be reduced in weight but still really keep the essence of what that shoe is about, and that's what I think you get here with the Nitro 4. The other one, probably more significant, is that you're now getting just that NitroFoam in that midsole. That kind of carrier foam is gone now to kind of cradle that NitroFoam, so it's definitely about giving you more comfort, more protection, still giving that responsiveness that we have seen in previous versions of the shoe. Now, what I would say is absolutely, it's still a very comfortable shoe to run in. I still think it's a very kind of stable shoe to run in as well, and it definitely feels like one that if I had in my rotation, it's one that I just want to go out and just tick off at that kind of running time, and you can really tick over very nicely, smoothly, very comfortable in this shoe. In terms of still retaining that versatility that we've seen with previous shoes, I think maybe something has been lost here. I think when I've tried to run a little bit more up tempo, I don't feel like I've had the same responsiveness that I've seen in previous versions of the shoe. I think absolutely you can ease off, and I definitely felt that kind of NitroFoam mainly in that heel where, as a heel striker, that's what I'm landing and that's what I saw and not really experienced. But in terms of, when I wanted to kind of go slightly more up tempo in the shoe, I didn't feel like I had that same faster feeling that I've had in previous Puma shoes. And I feel that maybe it slightly changed the kind of remit of this shoe and how I would use it and how I think a lot of people are going to use it. I still think it's going to be a good long run shoe, and I did a kind of 10-mile kind of easy run where actually running at my slightly more moderate pace is where it felt kind of most at ease. And when I tried to do some slightly faster sessions in it, it's not out of its kind of wheelhouse to do that, but I don't think it really felt as kind of snappy to me compared to the previous shoes. In terms of other things, we're going to talk about the outsole. Puma Grip outsole, slightly different from the previous shoe. Now, normally at this kind of time of testing, I would say it's dry, hot kind of conditions to be running in. I managed to get caught in what I would kind of describe as a flash flood, and I did get to put this fully to the test, and it held up. I kind of ran into pretty kind of torrential kind of conditions, and the Puma Grip kind of stayed strong, and I wasn't slipping around in quite bad conditions. So from a gripping traction point of view, all very good. Good level of rubber here as well. You look at it and it feels like a shoe that is going to hold up for a good amount of running. So definitely overall, I've liked what I've seen with the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. It still feels like a very dependable, comfortable, solid kind of performer. Has it lost a little bit of that versatility? Possibly so for me based on my testing, but that doesn't necessarily mean it is a bad shoe.
So we've talked about the Puma Velocity Nitro range quite a lot on the channel, mainly Nick, but we've all seen it as being a really solid shoe in the past few versions of it, and the Velocity Nitro 4 is no exception, but it is a slightly different shoe thanks to some of the modifications that have been made to it. The biggest of those, which I've experienced on the run, is the midsole. Just feels a little bit like there's a bit more to it now that midsole foam has been changed. It feels a tiny bit softer. It feels like there's a little bit more bounce in it. Not loads. It's not massively. It doesn't feel like a really cushioned, bouncy shoe, but it just feels like there's a little bit more than the previous version. And as a result, for a runner like me who likes softer shoes, I prefer it to the previous version. I think there's a little bit more to it in this shoe, and it definitely feels like you get a bit more energy return from it when you pick up the pace in this shoe. The only thing I would say is that I think because of that modification to the midsole, which is just slightly softer, if you really loved the previous version of the shoe, you probably lose a little bit of responsiveness from it because of that. For me, I prefer the softer midsole, so I actually think this is an improvement on the previous version. But for some of you, you might not like that as much as the previous version, because it's a very slight difference in the ride. But it is a fantastic shoe still. I still think it is a solid and one of the best, if not the best option out there for cost-effective running shoes. I think it's becoming more versatile as this version has been released, and I definitely feel when you pick up the pace, when you do intervals, when you're running at a faster pace, if you're just going out for a run and you want to pick up the pace to a faster, consistent pace, it feels like it's ready to do that more so than the previous version. I think the other version was very versatile. The previous versions were very, very versatile running shoes, but that really sat in that comfortable daily versatile market. I think this has got a little bit more to it now, which maybe pushes it a bit further along to being even more versatile when it comes to running a bit faster. So very much enjoyed running in this shoe. I think it's a fantastic option out there now, and I think Puma is doing a good job in making it even more versatile than the previous versions. But I don't think that's going to be necessarily for everyone if you really, really like that previous version. Outsole is absolutely fantastic. Puma Grip, as always, is probably the best outsole on the market. Definitely a shoe that you could use on lighter trails. Really thick layer of that rubber on there. Good level of grip as well. So definitely continues the trend of being a fantastic outsole on the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. So my verdict on the Puma Velocity Nitro 4, I think it is fantastic. I think it's still one of the best value shoes out there for daily training sessions. I think it's a great shoe if you just want one pair of shoes and you maybe are new to running, or maybe you're just more of a general runner and you don't want to spend loads and loads of money on expensive running shoes. This shoe ticks a lot of boxes and is still a very, very good option. More so now if you're looking to do more using it for more versatile training, you want to a little bit faster in it. I think it's a shoe that has developed nicely in this new version with this slightly softer and bouncier midsole in it, and the lightness as well has a big impact on how nice it is to run fast in these shoes. So yeah, I think it's a great progression from it. I think there's a slight risk that if you really, really like the previous version, you might not welcome the slightly softer midsole in this. It's not a massive change, but it is slightly noticeable out on the run. But I think it is still a wonderful option if you're looking for an all-round trainer, or if you've got a rotation of shoes and you want a workhorse that can do quite a lot of stuff that sits in the middle of it. If you can compare it with other shoes out within this within this sort of daily focus shoe, then you've got things like the New Balance Propel, which is nowhere near as versatile as this. It's a lot softer, and I don't think it's particularly good at doing faster training sessions. The New Balance 880 V15, which is a solid shoe, really think that's really, really good. But I do think that shoe's not as versatile as this when it comes to running a bit faster. This feels a bit lighter on the feet as well. And then something like the Ride 18, which again is a really solid, great shoe, but I do think this is more versatile and it's cheaper than all of those shoes as well. So still one of, if not the best options if you're looking for an all-round daily trainer that is nice and versatile, and even more versatile in this version.
So verdict, I'm a really big fan of the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. I think it's a really great shoe that comes in at a really great price, especially here in the UK where it undercuts really big hitters in this category, things like the Nova Blast, the Pegasus, the Clifton, all really good shoes, the Brooks Ghost as well. Now those are great shoes and shoes I enjoyed running in, but Velocity Nitro 4, I think I actually enjoy the ride feel more, and it's more versatile because it's lightweight and it's coming in cheaper. So all round it's a shoe I can see myself recommending to lots of people. I've recommended the Velocity Nitro a lot over recent years. People like members of my running club and people I speak to in general as just a good value option that often pops up in sales as well. And it just feels really nice on the foot. And the Velocity Nitro 4 does the things the line has done to date, but even better, I think, because I don't think you're really sacrificing anything with this updated midsole, and you're getting a lighter shoe with a really fun, energetic ride. Hasn't really increased the stability, so if you had that problem with the Velocity Nitro before, I think you'll definitely have that with the Velocity Nitro 4 as well. In that case, I think you could look at things like the Nose Blast, which is more cushioned and stable, or the New Balance Rebel V4 if you do want a really lightweight daily trainer. I think the Rebel is a great shoe. It's coming in a little bit pricier than the Velocity Nitro in the UK, but the same price in the US. And if you prefer a wide base on your daily, but still want a lightweight shoe, I think the Rebel has a lot of similar qualities to the Velocity Nitro 4 all round, and that would be a really excellent alternative as well. If you find that shoes that have a stack height at 36mm at the heel, aren't cushioned enough for you, then again, there's the Hoka Clifton 10, the Asics Nova Blast 5, really excellent alternatives. A lot more forefoot cushioning in particular. So if you are worried about the lack of cushioning under the forefoot on the Velocity, hasn't been a problem for me, like I say, during my run test. But if you do want a shoe that has a bit more comfort there, then the Nova Blast and the Clifton would be really solid alternatives for sure. There's also the Hoka Max 6. I think that might be a nice alternative for some people as well, as another really lightweight, great cushioned all-rounder. Getting a bit more cush, I think, with the Velocity Nitro all-round, and the outsole was a bit better on this as well. But yeah, Hoka Max 6 is another really good shoe that is now popping up in sales quite regularly, and I rate it very highly as a daily trainer myself. Compared to the Velocity Nitro 3, I think you are getting an upgrade here with the ride feel and the lighter shoe. I did do a short run wearing both shoes at the same time to kind of feel the differences out, and it does feel a bit firmer and flatter now, the Velocity Nitro 3, compared to this shoe. But it is still an excellent shoe, the Velocity Nitro 3 and 2, which is still around in sales. And they still do quite a similar job to the Velocity Nitro 4. Maybe not quite as good as speed, like I said, during the run test, but you are still getting great grip, good comfort, good value, and they do go for some very low prices in sales, those older shoes. So it might be worth looking at those still. But the Velocity Nitro 4 is a clear upgrade and a really good shoe. One of my favourites so far this year, one that's definitely worth checking out.
So my take on the Puma Velocity Nitro 4 is that if you are looking for an affordable, very comfortable cushioned daily trainer option, this absolutely fits the bill. In terms of being an upgrade from the Puma Velocity Nitro 3, I think it has similar qualities. I do think it's lost a little bit of that snappiness at the kind of more up-tempo paces. And I think, unfortunately, this is a bit of a trend we're seeing with daily trainers where there is a bit more priority over that kind of comfort, over that kind of versatility. I think maybe that's been lost a little in the Velocity Nitro 4. I would put it with shoes now like the Brooks Ghost, the New Balance 1080 V14, and things like the Hoka Clifton as well, where you know what you're going to get for those shoes. Maybe not the lively, most riveting ride, but you know they're going to be dependable. And that's kind of what I'm seeing in the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. If you wanted something a little bit more versatile in and around this price range, the Adidas Evo SL was an obvious option or alternative. Things like the NitroFoam Air 18, which is a bit more like kind of max stack kind of area, but I do find that shoe offers a little bit more of those more up-tempo paces. It's the same. I think, the Asics Nova Blast 5, again, it's a little like this, a little softer feeling, but I would use that for the same types of runs as this. So it sits well with the other shoes. It costs less than those shoes. And I think, again, if you're looking, you don't have, huge amounts of money to spend, then this is worth looking at. If you can pick up the Puma Velocity Nitro 3 for less, and it's always reduced, I always see it reduced, and you can kind of handle the more low profile fit that you're getting on the Nitro 3 compared to the 4, then absolutely still look at that shoe. I think you're going to get a really good experience from it. If you want that kind of more comfortable, more protective ride and still, have something that can roll through that kind of training time, then absolutely this is still worth looking at.
That's our review of the Puma Velocity Nitro 4. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.